Your house is worth whatever it's worth, right? Whoever sells it. Wrong. I'm Charlie. Welcome to Moving Home with Charlie, and thank you for coming.
Charlie Lambdin grew up in Sussex, is the founder of Best Agent and presenter of Moving Home with Charlie.
If you want to find one of these guys, look out for those compassionate professionals. All estate agents are not the same.
So, Charlie, what would be your advice for people interested in buying new builds right now?
Don't overpay. Do buy, but don't overpay. That's why I say disregard the guff. Read into the numbers and look, and it's buried. The bad news is buried in the small print, okay?
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Property Press Awards.
They may or may not be telling the truth, but you should form your own view. Get out and view, get out and view, get out and view. You cannot be in a position to make offers and have the offers accepted if you're not viewing. Just be out there viewing. Pay attention to the back of the class. If you've not been watching my videos, I did one just a couple of days ago. Disregard the guff, guys. Evening, Alex. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. How are you doing?
I'm in fine fettle, thank you, sir. Fine fettle. So you've just rushed in the door. Are you a bit flustered and unprepared?
I am a bit flustered, yes. What's worse is on the badge I was wearing today, it said Alex Groundwater, educator. Now that frightened the hell out of me. You let me educate anyone. That would be very bad.
But I also think my reaction to that is you have no idea.
No, the depths
let Alex come and educate you.
Oh dear.
So, interesting times. Let me frame. Good evening, everybody. I'm Charlie Lambdin. This is Moving Home with Charlie. That's Alex Groundwater, and I've got some embarrassing new photographs of him when he was a kid to share with you.
Oh, don't do that.
Or not. No, I won't do that. And every now and then, he and I get together to just literally have a chat about the state of the economy and finances and the market and how it might affect the housing market. So who knows where this conversation could go. If you've got any constructive questions, they would be great. But roughly speaking, this chat is about helping people who don't have the 3.5 decades of adult, I use the term adult loosely, adult experience of these markets one way or another, to help people understand what's going on when you start reading headlines about the bank this and bonds that and yields this and mortgages that, and you're wondering, I just want to buy a home. What does it all mean? So I said in a recent live stream that 2026, barring global shocks, that's what I said, the 2026 housing market in the UK was looking reasonably stable, flatlining generally, higher priced houses continuing to slide down, first time buyer levels climbing a little bit in some areas of the north, still continuing to gradually trickle down in some areas of the south, but broadly speaking, first time buyer prices holding about level, and a reasonably benign marketplace in which to go and move house with no big things to worry about, just crack on. So I think the first domestic item in the calendar that could impact the housing market is the local elections on May the 7th.
Yeah.
Because if that's any kind of shock or just unseats the government or triggers a late government collapse, that of course could have an effect on the housing market. But we're still 4 months away from that. But since I made that video, a few interesting global scenarios have emerged, and in particular, a couple of days ago,
our friends in the land of the rising sun.
That's right. Down in Japan, the Japan bond yield suddenly spiked to what people were calling, and then they did properly spike. And the problem is that in the global financial markets, there are lots of interrelations between different markets. And if one market has a big event, it can spill over into other markets. And there was a genuine chatter amongst the trading community of like, ooh, that's good. Like, let's hope it doesn't, because it can go one way, can't it? It's like wobbling. You're going to wobble. Are they going to fall over, or are they going to get their balance again? And it reminded me, and I did see people starting to talk about, the potential for another liquidity crisis is growing. And I just did a little bit of research before the live stream started, and the consensus out there is that roughly speaking, on a scale of 1 to 10, where 10 is a full-blown liquidity crisis, we're at a 7, which is the same place that the world markets were in 2007. So we're broadly comparable, according to these traders chatting away.
Yeah, you're going to start to hear words like contagion thrown around again. You know, it's
all we need, you know, when you have a large amount of unexploded ordnance, all you need is an accidental discharge.
I thought we were keeping this one clean.
The accidental discharge is a military term for firing a gun without intending to. We are keeping it clean, and you are being smarty already.
Okay.
Accidental discharge, or an unintended detonation. Or,
yeah, do you mean something like, I don't know, the AI companies and the chip manufacturers passing money between themselves as if it was sweeties, because hey, it's good for my revenue. So yeah, I'll buy this. If you can borrow that, it'll be fine.
This is one scenario that I think is not unlikely.
Yeah,
which is that the bond yields continue to look a bit scary, and that creates some unsettling. Volatility goes up, and some people, some big funds and some big traders get margin calls.
Well, do you mean a Liz Truss scenario all over again?
No, but I mean,
there's a lot of similarities between the two. That's basically what happened with pensions,
but
which
the thing
is blamed on Truss.
It's like a cascading situation. It's like it can fizz up and then it can fizz back down again. But if it's a bit too much, then it starts to cascade and then it runs away with itself. But I think that one of the first things that asset-rich but cash-poor traders are going to sell if things look really bad is their shares in the AI stocks.
Yep.
Because that's where they made all their money. They're going to cash in their chips. They're all probably sitting around a table, like behind closed doors, going, right, no one's going to sell their AI stocks yet, are they? No, you're not going to sell that. Great, cool. No, but and they're just all they need is for one person to go, I'm sorry, I just got to sell all my AI stock, and that could trigger a dominoes.
Look at what happened to Cisco and therefore the market in the .com crash.
Well, do you want to just tell us in layman's terms what happened?
Well, there was the huge bubble around the internet, and people were setting
share
up,
price, right?
Yeah, and there were lots of unicorn companies, although unicorn was slightly different then in terms of its valuation. But this was underpinned by real companies like Cisco that were producing all of the network equipment, and you thought, well, whatever happens, these guys are going to be okay because much as this is overinflated and it is a bubble and there's lots of companies going to go bust, they'll be all right. Well, they laid off in Europe 25% of their staff, and their share price went from $88 to $12, not because they were not a good, viable business, which they were and still are, and their share price is all the way back up because guess what? We're back in that technology bubble powered by AI. But this is the point, is it's not just these marginal players that, are out there raising money to do something which may or may not ever work. We're talking about very established companies, which is why, given the weighting in the American indices of these tech companies, if anything happens to them, the ripple effect out is enormous. And the tech market was really, really damaged from 2001 to 2004. It was not easy out there.
No, I remember it well. I really do. I mean, I was right in the midst of it. That's just when I was starting out with a tech company of my own, literally right then, which was interesting. So just for everyone watching again, for what concerned home movers, what caused house prices to actually crash in 2008, and they actually did, didn't they?
Yeah.
Was the fact that the banks stopped lending money. Now, there were a number of reasons contributing to that, but the primary reason was a banking liquidity crisis, which there's not as much of a chance of that this time around, is it? The banks are a little bit better prepared.
Yeah, they're better capitalized. The rules that were put in place have helped. but that doesn't help the punter in the street. I mean, much as I am very anti these elongated mortgages with vast salary multiples, if house prices don't crash, it is the only way that you can, or sorry, if house prices don't reduce, it is the only way that a lot of people are ever going to be able to buy a house, is to borrow these vast sums of money. So if they stop that, what we'll see is what we're already seeing and have been seeing for the last 10, 15 years, is people staying and living with their parents later and later into life, not forming family units, not having children. And so we exacerbate the problem, and we end up like Japan and Korea, and we're nearly there already in terms of native births. But so on the one hand, it's terrible to lend people that much money that they are indebted for 40 odd years, and it's taking up most of their salary and stopping them spending the economy, but at least they have a home. And on the other hand, if you don't give them that money, they don't have a home, they can't form a family unit, and so it all gets worse. It's all, well, as we've discussed for a couple of years now, it's pretty foobarred.
Yeah. I think, I wouldn't like to bet whether there is or whether there isn't going to be a sort of some kind of financial shock event, and how big or small it may not be, because there might be a few small ones that worry people, but actually the contagion doesn't spread. But there are a few ways in which it could get out of hand. Once you never know when it's going to go. It's when it starts to fall. When a house of cards comes down, you don't know which is the one that fell first.
And to be fair, P-Stove makes a good point. I think you're probably right, P-Stove. We are, as always, early. No unintended discharge. You're just a little premature.
Excuse me.
And in terms of the gold and silver there, I've been a big fan of silver for the last couple of years, and have said it on this many times. Gold also, well, as somebody has said there,
40% in 6 months.
Yeah, but silver's up 150. So no.
So we've got a few questions we're going to take, but there was a sort of triple whammy last time around, which was the banks couldn't lend. They didn't want to lend because they were also suffering from big losses from subprime mortgages collapsing.
Yeah.
And then also governments were panicking everywhere about the whole banking system being too big to fail and having to start borrowing. Now, interesting topic that comes up, right? Japan is the only current valid example of where modern monetary theory has been exercised to a limited and carefully balanced extent without adverse effects, but that might be coming to an end.
Yes.
Right? Because it might be that their modern monetary theory is part of what's caused.
And Japan is such an edge case because they own most of their debt themselves. They're not dependent on international buyers buying their bonds. Yeah,
but they are. They're definitely on high alert. Government today has announced that it will intervene as much as possible and has agreements with the US to do so if there are rapid market movements. So there's a sort of DEFCON 2 in terms of this financial situation. And what does that mean for home movers now? Honestly, if you're moving for life reasons as opposed to financial reasons, you're moving because you want to move house, I would crack on. I wouldn't delay. Buying or selling doesn't matter. If you're moving because you need and want to move, I think conditions in the first part of this year are going to be pretty good until or unless we get some kind of event. I don't know if you saw the news about OpenAI and their actual financial performance.
No, I haven't. I've been a bit busy recently. What's up?
I think their revenues are. They basically just haven't got any revenues, and they're burning through 130 billion in the last year or something.
Sorry, they've got no revenue or no profit.
Oh God, very, very little revenue. I
thought they were making
in comparison to their costs.
Oh, sure, yeah. Well, so those are extreme because they're on a huge build out at the moment. They're spending capital like water. Yeah,
they are burning money. I think they're burning about 12 or 13 billion a month.
Yeah,
that's the loss, and they don't have the funds to continue sustaining that indefinitely.
No,
But
well, they
more
just think someone's
importantly-
going to pop up and hand it over.
More importantly, the actual performance of their product has started to tail off.
Yes.
So they're falling behind. And there are all kinds of question marks about Sam Altman. And it's about to be sued by Elon Musk for $134 billion.
Yep.
So,
Which is not peanuts, even in their world.
OpenAI is having a bad day at the office at the moment, genuinely. And therefore is, I think, a prime candidate for everyone to go, oh, we should quickly just, everyone sell. It could be the one that
It would be carnage.
Yeah, it could be carnage. Now, there were lots of people in 2008 who lived in a house who weren't moving, who were basically unaffected by 2008. So it's not something that's going to affect you. If there is another financial crisis or liquidity event, if you own a home and you can afford your mortgage on it, business as usual, don't worry about it. But if there is another one and you want to move, that's when it starts to get very difficult.
Or as one of your people has said on here, you got divorced and had to sell the property, or split up with a partner and had to sell the property, then things begin to go quite badly wrong.
Yeah. Okay. So I've got a couple of questions I want to take. So No Allegiance said most analysts expect rates to rise from here onwards. Well, that's weird actually. I believe there will be one more dip in rates, a nasty financial event, and then rates slammed to near zero again, and QE out of all holes. This is a very popular opinion on what's going to happen. There, QE to the moon and brrr, all that kind of stuff. I just don't see it. I mean, if
it's not logical. It would be totally stupid, and yet, and this is the problem, Charlie. You and I do suffer from a bias here, in that we think that other people will look at something logically and go, okay, that doesn't make sense. It hasn't helped previously. It's just going to make the problem worse in the future. We've got to find another way to do this. And I've said for a while, we've discussed, I do think that many countries are going to try central bank digital currencies so they can get some control back. Of course, Trump is very anti that, and is supporting crypto, which also has a knock-on effect for gold and silver, because he's desperate to just retain the dollar's strength and power across the world. And he can't do that if Europe, for instance, rolls out, as they've said they will, a central bank digital currency before 2028. I mean, we're only talking 2 years away.
Europe doesn't ever achieve anything it says it's going to do. So
that's true. But even me being optimistic, and I say that in terms of optimistic for the speed of possibility, not for the actual product, which I'm not optimistic about at all. But I said 2030 would be the earliest that we could possibly see a CBDC in any of the large blocks. And yet, Europe are claiming.
And CBDCs, again, for new viewers, are central bank digital currency, which is effectively government-controlled currency. And it digitally controlled.
Yeah.
Government-controlled digital currency where they literally have full control over it. You think it's an inevitability. I don't disagree with you. I just hope you're wrong. You think that there are actual real upsides to it, some real convenience and some real benefits to it. But
but the downsides are frightening. Yeah. I mean, and I was very pleased to see that the digital ID, for I think it's the third or fourth time that they tried to do digital IDs and then given up. Long may that last. Yeah. But it is a stepping stone.
It is.
And to be fair, you don't need the digital ID. If you have to have an HMRC, HMRC passport or gateway account, you don't actually need a digital ID to have CBDCs, but it would help to tie everything together. So one doesn't preclude the other.
On interest rates, I for some reason I picked up a very large number of new followers on X. Hello everyone, had all new followers on X recently. Welcome. And there's this popular misconception that when the Bank of England cuts its base rate, house prices go up. And when I said, especially when this morning's inflation announcement came out, that inflation has ticked back up,
Yep.
Oh dear, that's not good for a base rate cut. I got lots of angry people, including Lewis, even Lewis.
But why?
No, it's up. It's just a blip. It's good. There's going to be a rate cut. There's going to be a rate cut. And someone else, some secret landlord or someone went, oh, if I could find the tweet where you said there was absolute certainty they were definitely not going to cut rates. And no, I've never said that ever. What I've said is that there are too many people with an apparent certainty that they're definitely going to cut rates. They're definitely always cut rates are going back to zero, and then they're going to print again. And I just don't. I don't think so. Certainly not yet. I don't see any conditions that warrant that yet. But this brings me on to the thing about rates. Trump wants the US rates to get cut. He wants that to happen. He said it today in Davos. And if the US does cut its rates, that tends to be the strongest correlator of what the UK does actually with its rates. So if he gets his way, he's talking about firing too late Jerome Powell.
Yeah, but again, the US is in a very different position to us.
But he made an interesting point, which is when the US goes up, it tends to pull all the stock markets up with it, and when it goes down, it tends to pull everything down with it as well. A massive overgeneralization, but he was immensely. But he made some very interesting comments on housing, by the way. He said, I've signed an executive order banning corporations. He said, I know some of you are in here. Some of you have been buying up properties, you've been buying up 10% of stock coming to the market. You can't do it anymore. He said, houses are for living in and for people. They are not for corporations, and I'm not going to let you do it, which was interesting.
Yeah, very.
And he said he had a big, long thing about how house prices are just way too far out of reach. He doesn't want to do anything to bring house prices down, but he does want to make people be able to afford by improving incomes and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but that's the thing. As long as it's improving income and not just making it easier to borrow. I mean, yeah, but America, again, it's not just their housing that's very different and the size of the country versus the population. It's also the fact that they have 30-year fixed rate mortgages.
Yeah.
And that makes a massive difference. And people go, oh, no, that's only a small select few. You have to be perfect gold credit. Not from what I've seen. If you look at the percentage of people in America that have a 30-year fixed rate, it seems to be the norm rather than an outlier.
Yeah. It's interesting. I've watched a lot of stuff on the market over there, and there's a lot of commentary about it's going to crash. And there's some places where it clearly has already. In some localized areas like Florida, there's been a big price falls, too much building, empty homes, new builds not sold, that kind of stuff. And interest rates are pretty high on mortgages over there. They got up to 6%, I think, for the 30 year. I don't know. I because the economy seems to be doing okay at the moment. I don't know if it really is or not, but over there, it's especially in terms of wages, and they've got fuel costs have come down massively. Like they're down to $2 a gallon. Yeah,
but you've got. I mean, this is the thing. You've got to. Is the economy doing well in the US? Well, yeah, sort of. Is GDP
growth now?
Yes, GDP increasing? Yes. Well, you've just talked about OpenAI burning all of that cash, and they're building infrastructure, as are people like Google and Apple and so on and so forth. They're piling loads of money into the economy, and that's going to the companies building data centers, building servers, building chips, and it's also going to utility companies who are now providing extra water, extra power. So that then moves on to generation companies, which of course moves to the oil companies. And if you look at the share price of Exxon and Esso and Chevron at the moment, you'll see that they're massively high. And you go, but the cost of a barrel of crude is very low at the moment, which is why price at the pump in the US is so low. So why are these American oil giants at record high share prices? $130 odd a share, up from $80 only a year ago. And that's because all of the work that they're doing, and it's a number of reasons, number of factors, but this AI bubble, this is what I'm saying, is it's not just tech, it's not just AI, it puts its fingers into a lot of pies because of the money it throws around. And in turn, that pushes up wages for those workers, which of course they spend in the economy elsewhere. And so their GDP does increase. And you go, well, that's wonderful. See how well they're doing. Yes, unless the AI bubble goes bang. And then you're the same situation that we had here with the whole mortgage piece of, oh, yeah, you can buy these wonderful houses, buy a wonderful house, have the biggest house you like. Well, that's great until it goes bang. So, yeah, it needs watching.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, the next You've already covered gold and silver. Yeah, we got the divorce.
That's a good one from Glenn.
Sorry, I was just I'll pull up in a minute if you said. But the other thing that this week people are really struggling to get their heads around is that rents are coming down, and that I've had a weirder sort of buzzing hornet's nest about no rents, and not. It's been weirdly from landlords and from tenants.
That's so weird.
Can't come down. I'm like, guys, wake up! You've been gaslit about rent prices. They are coming down, not everywhere.
No, unfortunately, not round here, but in other places,
they're never coming down in that place that's known as, what's it called? My area. They're never coming down in my area. But they are coming down. And Hamptons, I mean, there's an estate agent that put the data up that's saying the first time year on year, average national rents have fallen. Someone go, well, not in London. But don't forget, when you're at the entry level, that's where there's the most competition, and that's where prices won't go down. But at average levels, it has come down, right? Especially at high levels, I think, as well. But as I put on X today, that is good news. But the reason that it's happening is bad news. So there were 43,000 more people taken off payroll last month. 43,000 people reduced payroll.
Yeah, but how many in total since Labour started? Over 200,000 now? Are we there yet?
Yeah, but I mean, it's accelerating.
Yep.
I think it's 180,000 in the last 12 months, and they've been in power longer than 12 months, 18 months, I think it is now. This is why the Bank of England is cutting its base rate, because the economy is weak as hell. Unemployment is rising, job vacancies are falling, and wage growth is just it's now down to 0.8%. Real wage growth, so that's weak.
Those big boosts that we saw a couple of years ago are in the rear view, very much in the rear view.
They are, and it's bleak out there. And you're on a daily basis, you're seeing another big company shutting its shops, another big dealer's gone out of business, car dealerships closing down. This is recession, a recession story now. And it just makes me look at the government's figures and go, I don't know what you're talking about, but that's just not what's happening in the real world. It really, really isn't. There are recruiters saying that they've now, I think, what was the job centre? So we're getting now 5 adults applying for every vacancy. And that hasn't happened for a very long time. And private recruiters as well, just going, we've got so many people on our books and people aren't hiring. So, it's great that rents have stopped going up at least and might be starting to come down. But the reason it's happening is bad. There are some people going, but how is it possible? How is it possible? Landlords are selling up. Well, the economy is going down faster than landlords can sell up.
Oh, I think you may have mentioned a few times, Charlie, that owning a house, it's not a liquid asset. How long does it take to sell from first thinking about it on average?
There are so many landlords who are not going to be able to sell. They've left it too late. The market's not there. Okay, so just looking at some comments here. Whose comment was it you wanted to pick up?
Oh, it's just Glenn. He said, is it true that I predicted that Greenland would be the next financial crisis? No, Glenn, I very much did not. Very, very much.
No, that's been downplayed today. And apparently there was a headline on Bloomberg that there's a framework deal has been agreed. So I had a long drive in the car today and I just listened to his speech. And he basically said, look, how many decades have we been funding NATO? What do we get in return? Nothing. What do we ever ask for in return? Nothing. You need us to defend you every single time. You can't defend yourselves. It's like now we want something. We want Greenland. We just want to do a deal. It was really funny listening to it, actually. It's like, it was interesting going, God, this is the psychology of this man is extraordinary. He said, we're not going in military. He's like, we were never going to do that. That's ridiculous. So everyone went, oh, phew, he's not going to invade. Of course, he was never going to invade.
Although it is funny, people give Trump a hard time about this. If you look back at the history, America has tried to buy Greenland a number of times. A, because of its military importance in terms of protecting that Atlantic route. But B, it is full of minerals. There's gold and diamonds and all these good things. And America have tried so many times, at least twice, I think maybe 3 times in the last 140 years, to buy it, because they nearly got it when they bought lots of stuff from Denmark, but they ended up with bits of the Caribbean, places like Epstein's Island.
Well, he reminded me. He said they're not rare earth; they're just earth. There's plenty of them.
There's no such thing as a rare earth metal.
Yeah. Anyway, so someone has just said here, yeah, someone's whose YouTube handle is Piss Baby Granddad on YouTube says voluntary redundancy in higher education is massive. 600 at one university alone. Good jobs in towns that don't have high quality jobs. Voluntary redundancy. Wow. Yeah, it is big out there. Do we have any anyone else got questions about this? What do you so do you think the AI bubble is the prime candidate for someone flicking the first domino? You think an AI stocks off, yeah?
Is it the prime? The bond market is pretty scary, but you're right. It probably would be one of the big hedge funds that's heavy on AI, just needing to cover margin calls, etc., and selling stock. That's why not? Let's go with that.
Okay. It's going to be. I don't know if I can't get a readout in 2026. I think it's either going to end up being quite a benign year and nothing big happens. But it's also the year that Fred Harrison said there will definitely be a house price crash in 2026. Fred Harrison, the 18-year cycle.
Yes, the 18-year cycle, which
he recently did a video doubling down, saying, "Yeah, it's as I predicted. It will happen. It's going to happen. It can't not happen."
Yeah.
So very interesting. Yeah. Why were you an educator today?
Oh, I was up at the so one of those sort of dodgy side gig type things, IT projects for a school group, and so there's a big up at Excel London. There is the sort of, it's called BET, the whole education trade fair, which shows all the technologies for teaching and all this sort of good stuff. And so I had to be up there all day. Excel is just enormous and has absolutely no, and I apologize for swearing, fucking Wi-Fi. I don't understand how a conference center that size with all of the amenities cannot have a working Wi-Fi system. Honestly, I'm going to phone up their CEO and offer to just get it fixed for him, because it's shocking.
That, I think, I've got the strangest question I've ever seen in my life.
Go on.
Darren Westbury asks, Charlie, can I ask, have you been moonlighting in a men's tenor pads advert?
Oh, come on, find a picture.
I don't even know what those are. I'm probably going to regret asking. No is the answer.
You do know what they are. They are incontinence pads.
I didn't know that. Now I do. You told me. I didn't know that. Oh, okay. Sue Bennison asks a nice question. Look, it looks like we're all going to the dogs. Can we have something remotely positive? What might be something good to look forward to? This is my optimistic outlook. This government, and I mean this specific group of people in government now. I don't mean the Labour Party, with whom I don't share their politics much. There's a little bit I do, but in the past I've always kind of respected them as a valid political. This particular government is causing more harm and damage and misery and destitution than any government I can remember, with the policies that it has come up with and implemented, including policies that it didn't tell anyone what it was going to do. So I'm hoping that May the 7th triggers an early change, and even if it's like a change of leadership within the same Labour government, but there's no election, I'd be down for that.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that I think, if there's we have a change of the people in government, maybe a change of prime minister, who's up for it? There's Andy Burnham wants to do it, doesn't he? Wes Streeting wants to do it. Ange Rayner wants to do it.
Oh God.
Well, I know, but my point is, that would be less bad than continuing with Starmer and Reeves in power, in my view, I think, right? Or it could, if the Labour Party then goes into total meltdown and it triggers an early election. I think that whatever happens at the next election, whenever it happens, it's going to be a mess. It's going to be a horrible mess.
Oh, yeah.
There's probably going to be some kind of coalition after that. But that will probably derail whosever agenda this is that's being followed now, right, would probably get derailed by some kind of coalition government, I hope. That would be good news if we had an early election. I still, try as I might, I cannot see a source of real economic turnaround and good well, except for, of course, if we can fix the housing market, get rid of stamp duty, start people moving house again faster, that would genuinely help lift the economy because people spend money locally when that happens. Tradespeople get that would be fantastic.
It does, but that should be business as usual. I mean, what we need is, obviously it's not AI, although we do contribute a lot to that. But I really did sadly have faith in the science and technology in terms of biotech. We were leading edge in terms of cancer treatments using T-cell therapies. We've got some really great talent in this country. And compared with America, our talent is dirt cheap. So the Americans can use us as an R&D hub, and we can develop these treatments. But it all seems to be falling apart at the moment. There's been too much provision of lab space. Small companies are listing in America rather than here and then moving to America. We're not retaining the talent. And you look at it and you go, we're not going to generate massive GDP growth from this. It's not going to be the same story you've got in the US with AI. And if we don't do that, we've got another opportunity with small modular reactors, but we're moving so bloody slowly that we're going to lose out on that as well.
Ed Mini-Brain's convinced we're going to windmill our way into the future.
Yeah. So are you not showing this picture, Charlie?
No, I don't. I'm not showing that picture. Correct. I'm not showing that. If it's me in a sanitary pad or it is an incontinence pad, no thanks. That's really depressing because you have for a while held out that actually the life sciences might be the thing that
we're really good at it. We're good at starting the companies. We're good at doing the research. We've got enough AI skills that we're able to look for the original cancer seeds. All of this stuff. We're good with peptides. All of it we can do. And our labor is relatively cheap. But for some reason, we're just slowed down and clogged down with just rubbish. America keeps going, well, although the money in America has dried up in terms of biotech, the money in the US used to be, when you IPO'd, about double what you got in the UK. It's still about double, but it's half as much as what it was in 2021. So,
right. So LVW House Hunter says, Charlie, how do you feel about launching your business with looming recession? Is your business recession proof? So Best Agent being a housing marketplace, oddly enough, actually, most of the last 25 years worth of estate agents that did the best were ones who launched during the recession in the 90s. And people need to move house sometimes because there's a recession. So provided you can create a conducive place for people to move house, then yeah, actually it would be relatively unaffected by a recession, especially if it made moving faster and cost less.
Yes.
And I've got some really, really cool ideas about how to offer routes into moving for the consumers to get the professional representation they need, and to include in that insurance against wasted costs on failed transactions, that kind of stuff. So if you come to your best agent and your deal fails for reasons beyond your control, you're automatically insured against those losses. That sort of thing. A lot of people are so afraid about moving because of the potential it might lose a few £1,000.
Which is nothing in the long term.
Well, no. But when you have scraped and borrowed and worked multiple jobs to get your deposit, and you've just got enough for your deposit and just got enough for your conveyancing and mortgage and everything else, I can see where people go, I don't want to start a move and then find out that I've lost that 2-3 grand. And just a little bit more. There are lots of more people who want to move than who actually move. And once you start, if you look at what happened with both Uber and Airbnb, both of those markets, the actual consumer usage of those markets exploded because they made it easier, safer, and less and cost less. When all the friction got removed, and that's what I see happening in house moving. I see the doubling of housing transactions because suddenly you can go, hang on a second, you can reasonably reliably move house in 90 days now, right? 90 days.
It makes a massive difference.
And suddenly that changes everything. So oddly enough,
was writing on your ex earlier because they said, I lived in Australia for a bit. And I don't understand what's going on in the UK, because if you want to buy a house in Australia, it can take you as little as 4 weeks up to about 8 weeks, and you've gone from finding a house to moving in. And you go, yeah, that's quite a trick.
Yeah. So sorry, Valley says, question, I don't agree, Charlie. That's a statement. What don't you agree with? I'd love to know what you don't agree with.
Can I just respond to Saj?
Yeah.
Absolutely agree, CRISPR. And yes, our monoclonal antibodies, fantastic. Although the one I had to stab myself with was American made. But yeah, there's still lots of opportunities.
You need to get a room.
There's lots of opportunities.
You're both talking way outside everyone else's scope of understanding there. So
sorry.
Get a room afterwards, you guys. What did Valley disagree with? I'm really keen to know about that. Sue Benneton said, I walked into 2 estate agents today wanting to list my property in the spring. Question 1, why in the spring? Is that because the timing suits you, or because you think there's a better chance of selling in the spring? Because if it's the latter, I'd love to change your mind on that. I asked for ballpark figures of their costs and left feeling sick. An estate agent's costs are actually they're of secondary importance to the price they achieve, right? Just purely looking at it financially, right? If there's an estate agent who is so good at making a market for their clients' properties that they consistently get 3 or 4% more for the houses they sell than average agents, then their fee of 1.5 or 2%, which may only be 0.5% more than the other agents, suddenly is better value, right? This is where a more expensive agent can be better value because you actually conclude the process with more money in your pocket.
Yeah.
And a lot of people fixate on the agent's fee rather than fixating on what's their process for creating a market for your house. Oh, I see. Okay, so Valley is saying, I had a house on the market in Guildford, and honestly, there wasn't a market in the year after the recession, which we are in. It was on a really stupidly cheaply, and there was 0 buyers. Yeah, okay. So when there's a credit crunch, when there's a recession, you might not get as many buyers willing to pay so much. That's fair enough. The renting market picks up. There are a lot more forced sales. So estate agents themselves, if they're good ones, so roughly speaking, you can split estate agents into 2 groups. One group is they can only sell houses when the market's booming, going up, right? They're rubbish agents. They really are just list and hope agents who add no value, and they basically just wait to see if your house sells. If it doesn't, they don't bother, and if it does, they get their fee. And that's what happened during COVID. That happened a lot of those. Then there are the other agents who are in the minority, who understand that their job is that people need to move house, whatever's happening, whether there's a recession or not, whether there is a good market or not. You just need to move house, right? People die, people are born, people get married, people get divorced, people need to move for jobs, all of these things. People grow up, want to leave home, leave their parents and get their own place. None of those scenarios happen only because the economy is good or bad. Of course, there are market conditions that make it easier to move than others, but a good agent gets you moved no matter what. Yeah, I mean, if you're a seller in a recession, Yeah, it is tougher, definitely, no doubt, because buyers have more choice. And that's what's happening right now, by the way, guys. That is exactly what's happening right
Yes.
now. We've got the highest stock levels for 12 years, according to Rightmove. We've got a healthy, I mean, the number of first-time buyers is up at a record at the moment. And they're now well over half of all mortgage transactions are first-time buyers. So the pent-up demand is actually bubbling into transactions from first-time buyers, which is good. They're just being much more cost-conscious because they must have been watching my channel, listening to us, Alex, saying don't overpay, which is very good news. So, as I said, roughly speaking, 2026, great for buyers, not because you're going to make money. Do not think that I'm saying it's a good time to buy because you'll make money. I don't think that. It's the best affordability conditions for first-time buyers in about 10 years. Variable, regional variations and stuff, but and then if you're selling, it's, by the way, guys, and Sue, you said you're waiting to sell till the spring. Selling this year, I think, will gradually get harder and harder and harder, as it has been in the last couple of years. And that it makes no sense to wait to sell.
No.
Because that's what most people do. So what you're going to see is in the spring, when all the daffodils and crocuses come out and the blooms are out, everyone goes, oh, that's when to photograph your house. And of course, it's true. External property photography looks magical on a sunny day in the spring if you've got a nice garden. I get that. But all you're doing is competing with a larger number of sellers. If you wait for that, I just wouldn't wait. I wouldn't wait.
There's Kyle Webb has got an interesting question.
Let me find it. Where is that? Kyle Webb. Okay. Is that the how worried should people be?
Yeah.
So Kyle Webb asks, how worried should people be if they need to mortgage this year with a large mortgage, knowing a market crash would prevent them from remortgaging due to potential negative equity? Kind of answer your own question there, I think.
Yeah.
In those situations, and a lot of people are in those situations one way or another, like, we want to do this, we're in a position to do it, but if things go bad, we're going to be in a bad position. The simple approach to take is, what is the worst case scenario if the bad things happen, and can we cope with that? Right. So you carefully acknowledge, and don't be over optimistic. Don't be, oh, it won't be too bad, will it? Yeah, we'll be okay. No, those are the people who end up going, oh no, we're really not okay. Make sure you actually consider the real worst case scenario of your decision, right? Remortgage now, can't remortgage later, stuck in negative equity. Is that a scenario you can go, well, if that happens, we'll get by. It's an acceptable risk. If the answer is yes, crack on. If the answer is no, then don't. And it's a personal choice.
Yeah. Just quickly, if you think it's useful, discussion we had last night about mortgage rates versus interest rates.
Yes.
Yeah, so I did some graphs, a while back, and what you could see is that mortgage rates were always above the Bank of England interest rate, which kind of made sense because banks like to make a profit. And although mortgage rates and Bank of England interest rates are not directly tied, you could say that they're tied to the swap market, or in SONIA swaps, or that they're tied to the bond market in terms of yield, whichever way you want to look at it. They're not directly correlated with the Bank of England interest rate. In fact, the correlation is very low. It's less than 0.7. And you see that most from 2008 onwards. So mortgage rates had always been higher than Bank of England rates. And then in 2009, Bank of England rates collapsed to 0.5% or were reduced to 0.5%. And yet mortgages were very slow to follow. In fact, because the market kept believing that interest rates would go back up and no one could keep them at 0.5% for so long, mortgage rates stayed really high for about another 5-6 years. It wasn't until about 2016 that mortgage rates got back to almost where the interest rate was. And even then, they were still well above. Now, we've been in a weird situation since 23. Since 23, mortgage rates have actually been, for the majority of that time, and it depends on whether it's a 2-year or 5-year, but they have been for the majority of that time slightly below the interest rate. It's the first time that's happened in over 30 years. And that was obviously because the market believed their interest rates were going to be coming down. And so they could afford to be below the Bank of England interest rates. And the swaps market was lending the money cheaper. And so they could still make a profit. Yeah, there you go. But if you look at the end there from 23 onwards, you will see that the 2-year, the 3-year and the 5-year fixed are all below the Bank of England interest rate. And that situation has continued. Now, we had the inflation data today, and this is just one print, and it was only 0.1% above where the analysts thought it would be, because they thought it would go up from 3.2 to 3.3, and actually it went to 3.4. But what I'm saying is there's going to come a point in the market and at the swaps level where people go, do you know what? All that cheap money, no, you're going to be paying a bit more. And so mortgage rates, I think, are likely to increase, not decrease in the short to medium term.
Well,
so for people remortgaging, have a long, hard think about that.
Yeah. So just for people, because this is a really good graph because it really busts the myth about base rate and mortgage rates. The white dotted line is the Bank of England base rate, and that's that sudden collapse in the middle of the graph there is 2008, 2009. And it went way down to 0.5%. But all of those other ones, so the green is a 5-year fix, the red is the 3-year, orange is a 2-year, and the blue is a 2-year variable. But guess what? They didn't follow all. They slowly came down. And you're right, mortgage rates have been above back. But yeah, so you're saying that for the first time in a very long time, mortgage rates are below the base rate. Which, what does that imply? I mean, it just implies, again, huge competition amongst lenders, doesn't it?
Well, no, I think what it implies is that the guys, when the mortgage lenders are borrowing their tranches of money off the swaps market, the swaps guys think that rates are going to come down so they can get away with it for the short term. But there will come a point where they go, no, I'm sorry, we've done you the special deals. Right now, it's not coming down like we expected. You're going to have to put your rates up because we're not lending to you at this lower rate.
Wow. So you actually think that there's a real prospect of mortgage rates going up this year?
Yeah. I'm not suggesting they're going to suddenly jump a percentage point, but they can't continue to be below the Bank of England rate. I mean, this is 2 years now. Well, 3 years nearly.
Yeah, you're right. Here's an interesting question. Dan Denning says, could an increase in the personal allowance and tax rates mean technically people's incomes have gone up and the take home would, then they could borrow more, pushing up prices?
Yes.
Yeah. That's the thing. In the media, they always talk about house prices in relation to gross wages, gross salaries, right? So pre-tax salaries. But when you are individually assessed for a mortgage, they're looking at your net, your take home after everything. That's how they calculate what they're going to lend you.
And the way that humans in the UK work is as much money as they have, that is as much as they will throw at a mortgage. So yes, if salaries go up, the closest correlation between house prices with anything is wages. If wages go up, house prices go up. And by wages, I mean what people take home.
Yeah. And that's kind of flatlining now. But also the fewer people who are employed, when you're losing 10,000 people a week off payroll, that's not going to be pushing prices up, is it?
Nope.
Well,
right. Sorry. And Charlie, again, we need to be really clear. Actually, it may push prices up as long as the number of houses being sold reduces dramatically, and only the people who are still left with a job, who are by dint earning more, because it tends to be the lower paid people who are laid off first, as we've seen with the whole sort of increase in minimum wage and all this sort of stuff, which is where a lot of these people are coming from. And so rather than selling 100,000 houses in a month at an average of 330,000, you'll only sell 50,000 houses in a month, but at an average of 360,000. And the people will tell you, the ONS, and they will say, oh, house prices have gone up by £30,000, each. It's fantastic.
But at the moment, there's no danger of that because there's a glut of supply.
Yeah.
And that's not changing anytime soon. And as a lot of people in the comments are saying now, there's new stock coming on, and as we saw with Rightmove's announcement on Monday, asking prices have jumped, and it's just the breathtaking extent of something that I have coined a term, which is price prejudice, that everybody has, buyers and sellers alike, that they just think prices are up and going to go up, and they're just going to stay up, and they're never going to come down. They're only going to go up, and agents think that, and mortgage brokers think that, and so everyone believes that.
Yeah,
and it's not the case. And I was with an agent today, and the seller, and as more people lose their jobs, and as more people are forced to sell, and as more people are forced to pull out of purchases they were going to make, the seller desperation amongst the sellers that do have to sell or need to sell will gradually increase. And what we're going to see more of, and it's really sad to say this, is, which we've already seen a lot of, but it's going to continue to increase, is sellers who go, why didn't we take that offer we got at the beginning?
Yeah.
Why didn't we take that offer that we turned down 6 months ago? We'd jump at that now. And because no one thinks about this, sellers don't think about this until they decide to come to the market. They're not paying attention to what's happening in the economy, house prices. They're not listening to commentary like this on the market. And all they do is they hear what they want to hear. Oh, everything good. You're busy. Great. Okay, yeah. We saw Rightmove saying record jump in house prices. We saw the ONS saying house prices going up. Sounds brilliant. Sounds brilliant. Let's just, and they're just so deeply gaslit.
Yeah.
And you combine that with the fact that because of inflation, everyone's so much poorer anyway. Well, we need this much to move.
Yeah, nobody cares. Nobody cares how much you need. That is absolutely irrelevant.
Well, first of all, you might be wrong about how much you need, because the onward purchase may well cost you less than you think, number one. And number two, that is not a basis on which to price your property. And so much of this property coming onto the market now at even higher prices than it was taken off a couple months ago, it's just not going to sell. It's not going to sell.
No.
I had yesterday, I was talking to a different agent who kind of specializes in much higher end stuff. And he just said it's dead, and it's going to, at the higher end, it's going to be dead for the next few years. And he set out his reasons. And this is someone who doesn't want it to be. This is just a very intelligent, very successful agent. And the sellers just, there's a part of me that sympathizes with sellers, because they get a drip, 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 week in, week out, and 90% of it is up, record. Then you get that story that we had in the Daily Mail last week, where the big spread about London house prices in free fall, prices collapsing. There's already a house price crash in London. But guess what happens when the sellers see that page?
Yes.
Nope, don't want to see that. Subconsciously, like, no, don't want to see that. Don't want to see that. Oh, look, the ONS. Never mind what the Daily Mail said. The ONS says,
yeah.
And so many are going to get caught out by it. So many are going to get caught out by that. Any more? Do we have questions? Oh my goodness me! It's an hour, guys. It's time to wrap it up. Any last minute questions you want to take?
Where are we? A quick Glenn. I would simply spend the $100,000 on red wine and then drink it.
Maybe.
I don't know. Why am I worrying about?
For people listening on the audio podcast, Stig's hypothetical question for Stig: if you had $100,000 in tech stocks and $100K left on your mortgage, would you A, keep the stocks, or B, pay off the mortgage or immediately, or C, drink a lovely glass of red wine? And your answer is?
Sell the stocks, buy wine, drink all of it.
On that happy note, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to get your name down for the newsletter every week, mhwc.co.uk/newsletter. That's there, which will keep you up to speed with everything. If you are selling, conveyancer first, then choose your agent. Don't overprice it. Ask the agent, what's your strategy for getting multiple competing bidders? I don't want a valuation. And if you're buying, always buy, just don't overpay. Get your mortgage ready, get a conveyance ready. That's hard. Most conveyancers won't take you on until you're ready to actually have an offer accepted, but the good ones will. My guys will. Have a great one. See you on the next one. Alex, thanks very much for joining.
Cheers, mate.